It's the Daily Doug.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Daily Doug. Thanks for being with me today. On today's Throwback Thursday episode, I am going back to the very beginning of 2023. Our first fan favorites episode of the year in January involved us just culling the list. I get so many recommendations and suggestions for the channel that my list of pending titles gets quite long. And occasionally we've done this where I've picked like a dozen or 18 titles that have been sitting there for a long time and said, which ones do I prioritize? And so that was what we did. That was what we did that January. And the one that won the poll, the song that won the poll out of all of them was some Talking Heads music. And I'll say this in the video, I've not been a huge fan of Talking Heads over the years, but this one really grabbed me, and it grabbed me for a couple of different reasons. One, they try to play funk. It's just one chord the entire time. So as a composer, I'm sitting there going, what do I say about one chord? That's just a suspended one chord. They're working with pentatonic melodies, and the chord itself is a pentatonic working of voicing, and they use it to just kind of stop time and live in this, what does it all mean? How the hell did I get here? And how do I cope with what's going on around me? So I am pleased to offer my reaction to the Talking Heads doing Once in a Lifetime, filmed back in January of this year. The winner of our poll, friends, is Talking Heads. And if you would have asked me if this one were going to win, I wouldn't have even thought that it would. I don't know. This really surprised me. The song is called Once in a Lifetime, and this is from their fourth album, Remain in Light. It was released in 1980. So another one right around that same general area, late 70s, early 80s. This band this song was inspired by jams with some Afrobeat musicians, and they developed the sound of this song. Meanwhile, David Byrne's lyrics were inspired, or at least the delivery of them, maybe the content too, were inspired by preachers delivering sermons. I'm not sure if I know this song, y'all. The more that I read in, I was like, I'm not sure. I think when I hear it, I might remember it, but it's not coming to my head as I read in, and especially as I'm introducing it now. Apparently they would be jamming and they would be recording while they jammed, and Brian Eno would go back and he would isolate and locate the best motives and best hooks from those jam sessions, and then they would learn how to play them and incorporate them into repetitive motivic things in their music. He likened it almost as like a predecessor to modern looping and sampling. And Byrne said that the song was the result of the band trying to play funk, but really not doing well at it. And then in the wake, they inadvertently create this sound in the process. It's going to be really interesting to hear it. The song has received many accolades over the years, especially from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and from Rolling Stone, including it prominently in best of lists. This particular one is produced and co-written by Brian Eno, who also provides synths, percussion, and backing vocals. So we've got David Byrne on lead vocals and guitar. Jerry Harrison is on synths, organ, and backing vocals. Tina Weymouth is on bass and backing vocals. Chris France is on the drums, and they are joined by Nona Hendricks on backing vocals and Adrian Bellew on guitar. So here, I'm not sure if I've heard this, y'all, but we'll take a look, is Once in a Lifetime from Talking Heads. Off we go.
You may find yourself living in a shotgun shack, and you may find yourself in another part of the world, and you may find yourself behind behind the wheel of a
It's like a suspended A chord. It's like going down to 4, but the 4 is in that A chord too.
with a beautiful wife.
So there's a
You may ask yourself,
spoke sung like a preacher.
how did I get here?
Okay. I've heard this. Of course I have. There's never a sound that really grabbed me, though, back in the day. So I didn't pay that much attention to it, but I have heard this.
And you may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful house. And you may tell yourself, this is not my beautiful wife. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was.
Same as it ever was.
Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. Same as it ever was. Water dissolving and water
That
removing.
backing sound
There is water
has stayed static
at
the
bottom
entire
of the
time.
ocean.
They haven't even,
Under the water, carry the water.
it's not that they've even moved keys, they haven't even moved chords really. It's like that A suspended. Really fascinating how they layered the sounds though. Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down, water flowing underground.
You may ask yourself, what is that beautiful house? You may ask yourself, where does that highway go to? And you may ask yourself, am I right? Am I wrong? And you may say to yourself, my God, what have I done? Letting the days go by, let the water hold me down. Letting the days go by, water flowing underground. Into the blue again, into the silent water. Under the rocks and stones, there is water underground. Letting the days
It's got a hypnotic element to it, doesn't it?
same as it ever was.
Once in a lifetime water flowing underground.
Same as it ever was. Look where my hand was. Time isn't holding up. Time isn't after us. Same as it ever was. 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 Yeah, Twister comes. Here comes the Twister.
Here comes the twister, y'all. I don't know if I've reviewed a song that only has one chord. It makes sense that they were trying to play funk because funk music is similar, right? It typically has a bass, harmony to it, and everything just riffs off of that, and off we go. But it didn't really feel like funk. Talking Heads funk. Of course, I've heard that. Especially the chorus sounds familiar to me. But I never knew what the song was even called, what the name of it was. I enjoyed it, but it's not my favorite. I've listened to the Talking Heads some. They're not one of my absolute favorites. I appreciate, of course, what they do and the sounds that they make. There's so many different types of music. That one, their stuff doesn't quite hit me the way that other bands' sounds do. But I'm very interested in it. Byrne gave his take on this song to NPR, saying that we're largely unconscious. I don't know what he means by that. Then he goes on, we operate half awake or on autopilot and end up with a house and family and job and everything else. We haven't really stopped to ask ourselves, how did I get here? And as I already mentioned, his style wasn't really singing as much as it was preaching. So he said this, so much of it was taken from the style of radio evangelists. So I would improvise lines as if I was giving a sermon in that kind of meter, in that kind of hyperventilating style. You may have heard it said, that sort of thing. And then that's how they built the song. Really interesting. I think in the end, what grabs us and what keeps the song current and fervent and sort of living is that it encourages us to not be afraid of the passage of time. Same as it ever was. As the days go by, let the water, letting the days go by. I need to let the day go. I need to let the water flow under the ground and into the blue again and into the silent water, so it's not still talking at me. I need to move on and let what has happened happen, learn from it, and go on and not be afraid of the passage of time, right? Not constantly being hung up. So sometimes that's difficult for me. I'm sure that you're like, yeah, that easier said than done, Doug. But I think in the end, that's what they're talking about here, and it's a pretty darn important message for us to remember and heed. Friends, as I was going back and watching that particular reaction, I had an epiphany of sorts. It was very helpful for me. And I want to let y'all know that I do go back and rewatch these, especially for my Throwback Thursday episodes. I go back and I relive the piece and what I had to say about it, because sometimes when I finally get them to YouTube, it's been months. And in this situation, it's been half a year since I've heard this song and made these remarks. So it's important for me to go back and relive it and have it re-affect me. And that's what it did today, y'all. I said while I was reviewing this that the Talking Heads have never been one of my personal favorite bands, and that I wasn't really engaged in this one, but today I was. And it's a difference of just my emotional state. I've been struggling a little bit emotionally lately, friends, with the news and things going on in the world, and it's all overwhelming sometimes. I got out of my Daily Doug bubble, and I took a couple weeks off. And while I did that, I did some reading and caught up on everything that's going on in the world as much as I can tell, and it's disconcerting. And it sticks with me. I get emotional about it, y'all. And so as I'm going through here, I'm like, they've got the one chord, and I just abide in that A suspended chord, and I can let the days go by. I can let that water go under the bridge. And sometimes a piece like this can be like a mantra and help me. So that's what happened today. And I look forward to coming back to some more from Talking Heads and seeing if I can figure them out and get to know their humanity a little bit more. So that's all for today, folks. Thanks for being with me, and I will see you next time on another edition of The Daily Doug.